Now, here's your host, Bill Teegins.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. The Cowboys stand 7-1 in the season after another win, this one over Arkansas State. Coach, hope you had a Merry Christmas. Your team's had a few days off from game competition. How do you feel about your squad right now?
Well, we're pleased with the record. I'm not pleased with the overall play. We've been very inconsistent in some areas of our game, and hopefully over the next few days we can get some of those things straightened out. Very tough schedule that lies ahead. Temple Saturday night, then the University of Tulsa on Tuesday, and then follow that up with our opening game with the favorite, preseason favorite, the University of Kansas. So next three games, I think we can tell a lot more about our ball club, but they are getting better. I think that we have shown improvement from the beginning of the season, and if they'll continue to work and we can get everybody healthy, then I think we've got a chance to have a good season.
Well, we've got lots of basketball to talk about. Coming up, we'll take a look at Arkansas State. That's when the Eddie Sutton Show continues. Welcome back to the Eddie Sutton Show. As we said, the Cowboys now 7-1 after the win over Arkansas State. Two guys, Keontae Roberts, Jerome Lambert, didn't practice, come into the games. Is that going to change your routine, Coach?
I made, in a very joking manner at the press conference, I said, well, maybe there's something to not practicing because Jerome and Keontae both had injuries and couldn't practice with the 2 days prior to playing Arkansas State. And yet they went out and had terrific games. Now, maybe it was a rest, I don't know what, but I'm not going to advocate that to any young players or any coaches. I think that you still have to pay a price to be good, and I think that was just one of those things where they had terrific games, but I think they would tell you also that if you did that over a long period of time, you're not going to play very well.
The important thing is those guys mean so much to your team, and they both played very well. Jerome, even up in that morning, you weren't sure was going to play.
No, that's true. At the pregame meal, there was every indication that he wasn't sure whether he would play, but there you can see he missed a shot, but he went right back and got it. Had 24 points and 8 rebounds, almost had a double-double, and Keontae Roberts did have a double-double, 15 points and 10 rebounds. And there you see Jerome taking a charge. A lot of guys don't like to give up their body like that, but in my opinion, that's one of the great players an individual can make for his ball club when he does draw a charge and take the ball away from the opponent. There you see a replay of that one. Keontae is a terrific driver. If you can give him some space and create one-on-one situations, he can take that ball to the hoop.
Coming up with some nice defense as well.
Good defense there. Keontae had 3 steals to go along with his other impressive.
How is his ankle, Coach, right now?
Well, it's still very tender, and you know, we've been practicing since we let them off after this ball game on Saturday, and they came back Tuesday evening for practice, so we did allow them to go home. We think it's very important. Sometimes it hurts you immediately after you come back, but I think because of basketball season being so long, that to be home with their families at Christmas time is a real shot in the arm, and I think it pays off at the end. So they came back, and we've been having 2-a-day practices this week and getting them back in condition. And but that ankle is bothering him, and that knee of Jerome's is bothering him, and also Jerome sprained his ankle this week. So we're still not at full speed for Temple Saturday night, but I think both of those guys will play.
Lambert, as you said before, probably going to have to play with some pain, and boy, he just did a great job on the boards for you and scoring-wise, led your ball club.
Well, that was a terrific play right there. You can see he just went after the ball. He had a desire to get it, and he has a nose for that basketball. Excellent rebounder and strong enough that he took that ball back up and got a 3-point play out of it. And there's Keontae on a back screen, and he broke free for an easy layup.
He is strong, too. There he takes his charge as well. You took about 3 or 4 of those in that game.
Yeah, you know, we really promote that and advocate that our players what important. There's, again, a cross screen down on the baseline there, and we broke Keontae free again on I think this is a replay of it. There's Peterson throwing the ball down there, and when I say a cross screen, those two guys are parallel to the and they just screen across for one another, and if the defense doesn't switch or if they don't really play it well, you're going to get an easy shot. There's a secondary break where you back screen on the high post, and nice pass, and Lambert puts it home.
Jerome actually looked like he was having fun playing on Saturday.
Well, you have fun when you score 24 points and get 8 rebounds. I mean,
you should enjoy it, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
There he is again inside. That's a pretty acrobatic shot right there.
Yeah, you can see that's about as much emotion as you'll see Jerome. He's pretty laid back, reserved, quiet young man. There you see it. I mean, shows how strong he is. He's very strong. You know, he looks like he's not bulky like Maurice Robinson, but Leroy Youster, our strength coach, has really helped all of our players in developing strength, and that's important. A lot of times people think that you know, weight training in basketball is not good, but we've used weight training for many, many years. It has to be supervised. You have to know what you're doing. But there's no doubt it increases your strength as far as being able to have a greater ability to shoot the ball out on the floor, but at the same time it makes you stronger and you don't get bumped around. And of course, you know, they say basketball is a non-contact sport. That's not true.
Not at all. You know, that crowd on Saturday, you know, this is the holidays. A lot of the students are gone, but you had a great crowd on Saturday.
Well, I think Chuck Bedingfield and Dave Martin, two of our assistant athletic directors, did a great job in promoting this game. They got the news out that a lot of our students were gone and they were going to sell extra tickets. And gosh, a lot of fans that had not seen us play were able to get in the arena, and it was a full house and a very enthusiastic crowd. And you know, I'm always heaping praise as far as the sixth person in basketball, and guys, they really played the part Saturday afternoon. And you know, we won this game 97-62, the widest margin of victory we've had this year, and probably the last time we'll win a game like that. And of course, disappointing loss, I think, for Dickie Nutt, who played at Oklahoma State and was and coached here. He's in his first year at Arkansas State, but his ball club was well prepared, and I thought they really played hard. We just played a good basketball game, got to play everyone, and everyone with the exception of Kevin Miles scored. I mean, our two walk-ons, Billy Lewis and Tommy Warner, got in the game, and they both hit trays, and so that was a good Christmas present for them.
I think we're going to see that at the end of the game. Good defense here. Good hustle by the Cowboys.
It was a very festive atmosphere. You know, when just before Christmas, you need a game like this, and I think everybody, the players and the coaches and all the fans left the arena. Boy, they were pumped up because it was just a fun game.
It sure was.
Nice shot by Andre Owens on a 2-on-1 break.
4 players in double figures. We talked about Keanu and Lambert. You also had Dorsey with 12 and Jason with 14.
Well, Jason's been playing very, very well for us, and that was the best game for Marlon. I hope that he'll continue to give us that spark. He's had good practices this week, and with that temple zone, we're going to have some outside shooting, and we'll hope that Dorsey has his eye on the basket Saturday night.
Great follow there by Jason. He goes up. This is a great one-handed thing right here.
He might have pushed off a little there, but the official didn't see it. There was one thing that disappointed him in this game, and if you have to be critical, there's too many fouls committed. The officials call the game extremely close.
You have to adapt to that, don't you?
Yeah, that's one of the things we tell our players. You know, if the official's going to let you play a little rougher, well, then play rougher. But if they're going to call it close, then you have to adjust. And another nice break there, Keontae off to Andre, and a nice little bank shot. If you got the angle of the board, we tell our players, you know, it's a much easier shot when you're on the move to bank it if you're in there 8-10 feet away than it is to play it clear. But in this particular game, 68 free throws on the part of both ball clubs, 51 fouls. And as I told our squad, we had 25 whistles, and that's too many. And you know, if you continue to foul people and put them in the bonus situation, you're asking for problems.
We have RW on the move to the hoop for a bucket.
RW continues to get better and better. He's really going to help our ball club. Already has. Nice passing. Alexander off his.
Feeling pretty good right there.
Here we set this play up. We call that Hoosier, and look at Billy Lewis. He's from Enid. He's a walk-on, and he's really helped us a lot in practice.
Here's Tommy.
Tommy Warner.
Nice way to end it. 97-62. Go to 7-1 on the season. Again, a good crowd. A great way to end everything before you go to the holidays. 7-1, as you said. There's Dickie Nutt, and you going down on the sideline.
Congratulating our coaches, and of course Houston Nutt, who's a head football coach at Murray State, and Dickie's brother was I think the Division II Coach of the Year. Dennis Nutt is an assistant at Arkansas State, and Houston and Imogene Nutt, who reside in Little Rock, and Houston was one of my teammates here, so it was a Nutt reunion here, and I know they were disappointed in the loss, and I'm sure that some of them had mixed emotions, although you have got to cheer for that blood, and I'm sure they were cheering for the Indians. But we had a lot of fun talking about the old days when Houston and I played here. And, of course, Houston, as we've said before, the only player to ever play for Adolph Rupp and for Henry Iba. He transferred to Oklahoma State after playing 2 years for the Wildcats.
What a great experience that must have been. When we come back, we'll talk more recruiting as the Eddie Sutton Show continues. Welcome back to the Eddie Sutton Show. You know, recruiting is the lifeblood of any program. For the Cowboys, it's been a great recruiting season. In our off-the-court feature today, Tom Dorado takes another look and a closer look at recruiting at Oklahoma State.
Thanks, Bill, and joining me again this week, assistants Sean Sutton, Paul Graham. You remember last week we talked a little bit about the fall signees, the very, very talented group of signees the Cowboys had in the fall. Well, this week we want to touch upon the evaluation process. And Paul, those signees were the result of many, many discussions over many, many months.
Well, I hope people and our fans really understand how many hours that Sean and I and our coaching staff, Coach Dickey, we put into recruiting these prospective student athletes. And that is, it starts way before the signing day. It goes all summer. We crisscross the country going to various AAU tournaments from Las Vegas to Winston-Salem to Los Angeles to Dallas to Houston, all across the country to find the best prospective players that we can. It takes a lot of phone calls, a lot of letter writing. You know, you have to nurture the mother, the father, the grandmother, the high school coach, the AAU coach, and then you hope in the long run that our program is good enough to sell to them, and evidently it was, because many people have rated our recruiting class as one of the top 2 or 3 in the country. But again, there's a lot that goes into it other than going out, watching a young man play and asking him, would you like to come to Oklahoma State and play basketball?
Have the restrictions made this process even more difficult?
I think so, because nowadays they've changed the rule. You only get 2 evaluations. If you go see a kid play, sometimes he might get in foul trouble or he might have a bad night, and you don't get a true evaluation. I think one good rule the NCAA passed, you only call 1 time a week. And I think that's healthier for the coaches, that you're not having to call a kid every night, and I think it's healthy for the prospect because his phone's not ringing every night with the same school. So the restrictions, I think, have been good in some areas. In some other areas, I think you know, could be corrected.
It must be nerve-wracking to go head-to-head with every major college basketball program in the country for one individual.
Well, it really is, but at least it tells you you're recruiting the right individual. In our case, you know, the fact that we've had such tradition here over the last 5 or 6 years, the fact that we have one of the top 4 or 5 coaches in the country, the fact that we're now considered one of the top 20 programs in the country, that really aids us as we go out to recruit, because you know, Stillwater's kind of off the beaten path. I mean, you have to want to come to Oklahoma State University to play to really want to come here. And so being that we're recruiting the same players that Michigan wants, Kansas wants, if we're going to compete and be one of the top 20 programs in the country and strive to win a national title, it helps to go out and get the best players.
Great education, fine community, winning tradition, all part of the package that you offer and try to sell these individuals?
I think so. I think, like Paul said, we've been very successful the last 5 years in a lot of areas. And one of the things that we try to do is identify kids that will be successful in our basketball program. Not everybody's going to be successful at Oklahoma State. We look at character. We look at the type of family they come from, not only the type of player, but the type of student. And so there's a lot of things figured in, and we try to identify the people that we think will come in and represent Oklahoma State in a first-class manner, like the guys you know, in the previous seasons here have done. It
was brought up last week. Important to recruit the state of Oklahoma.
It's very important to get the people that's right up under you. This is their school. It belongs to the people in the state of Oklahoma. We want the best players every year out of Oklahoma. We feel like in Estelle Lassen and Joe Atkins that we got the 2 players that we wanted the most out of this state to fill our needs. We won't get them all, but we want to make sure we get our share because this is Oklahoma State University.
As we speak, coaches, including yourselves, you're charting the progress of juniors. And that's a future signee down the road.
Well, that's an area I don't think people really understand. Like with Joe Atkins and Estelle Astor and Desmond Mason, Alex Weber, Scott Robert, that's a 2-year process going back to the start before their junior years, where you can start corresponding with them and writing them, and then you go and watch them play and you follow them during the summer. And that's what makes it frustrating. You take Martin Lewis, for example. He was recruited out of high school by Oklahoma State, and then Paul and my dad recruited him for 2 years at junior college. You get him signed, you come here, you think big things are going to happen, and all of a sudden it's a crushing blow. He goes to the NBA draft. So it's a long, drawn-out process, and just luckily we've been successful getting a good group this year.
Much like drawing up the X's and O's before a game, making the right calls on the bench, this is highly competitive business. If you can't compete, you probably don't need to be recruiting.
Well, you're exactly right, and I think most people that do it, Tom, take it personal. At least I know Sean and I do. If we lose a prospective student athlete to another school, you're defeated because we put so much into it. I mean, the letter writing, the traveling, driving up and down 2-lane highways late at night, following a young man around, and then you want to make sure that you get him. And the other thing that happens is, you know, as an adult, that this is the best place for a young man to go to school based on style of play, based on how we're going to present our program to him, and then a lot of athletes, they choose school for the wrong reason. So it is highly competitive, and this is what allows you to win as players.
As you try to plug the holes in each and every year with individuals, the individual who may be right for this school, School A, may not necessarily be right for School B, and that's where the evaluation comes in.
I think you get an understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of each player, and if he can fit into your system and your style. That's where I think style of play, a need for a certain position where if we need, like we were in need of some big guys, Scott Robish and Alex Weber will fill that void a year from now for us. So I think a lot varies, and me and Paul and Coach Dickey and my dad, we get on the blackboard and we identify our personnel and see where are we weak and where are we strong at, and then in the next recruiting class try to plug in the holes where we're weak.
Our thanks to Sean and Paul once again. You guys do a great job in all phases, including recruiting. We appreciate you being with us again this week. That's it from Studio B. Now we'll send it back to Eddie on the set.
Another nice piece by Tom, and you know, Paul and Sean and my other assistant, Randall Dickey, have done a great job in recruiting this class that we put together in the fall. Recruiting becomes a very frustrating experience at times because you can come in second, and that's like finishing last in a lot of other endeavors. One of the most interesting recruiting stories, I guess, I had an assistant coach, Jimmy Counts. He's now Dr. Counts. He's a thoracic surgeon in Springdale, Arkansas. And Jimmy had been admitted to med school, and I didn't encourage him to go. I said, you might be the one that discovers cancer, the cure for cancer. He said, no, I want to coach. Well, they have a deferment program so he could enter either the first, second, or third year. Well, we were recruiting a young man over here in Tulsa, Steve Hale, who was a son of Jerry Hale, who was one of my teammates. Well, it came down between North Carolina and us. Jimmy made 13 trips between Fayetteville and Tulsa to see Steve play, and when Steve called and said, Jimmy, I'm going to be a Tar Heel, he came to me and says, Coach, I'm going to be a doctor. And the strange thing about that, Jimmy Counts is a doctor, but Steve Hale is also a doctor.
That's right.
So there are a lot of great stories that go along with recruiting, but if you don't win, it's very frustrating for assistant coaches.
If you're second, you're last, as you said. When we come back on the Eddie Sutton Show, we'll take a look at what's ahead for the Cowboys, and it's a killer schedule next week. That's coming up. Welcome back to the Eddie Sutton Show, Coach. Ahead, it's a good thing you had a couple of days off because this is a very tough week ahead for you.
Very difficult. We probably are going to be playing in the next 10 days the three toughest teams we've faced so far. We played Temple Saturday night, and I think Tom's got a little footage on them. But
well, they had a good week last week, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Beat Villanova in Kansas, and there you got a good shot at John Cheney, an outstanding coach. And he, by the time the game started, he usually got that tie all the way down about to his waist. And but his kids play hard, boy. They have great athletes. They play a matchup zone, which is really tough to work against because you don't see it that much. But this should be a terrific game Saturday night. And of course, prior to our game with Temple, ORU takes on the University of Tulsa, a team that just popped into the top 25 this week. And I told you before we came back on the air, I think Tulsa's probably as good a team as they've had maybe ever, and we play them next Tuesday. So next two games are tough, and then we open Big 8 play with the University of Kansas. So we'll find out what kind of a ball club we are.
It's obviously a killer schedule. Best of luck to you, Coach. We'll see you next week. And for Coach Sutton, I'm Bill Teegins. We'll see you next week on the Eddie Sutton Show.